couple of months ago, I came home from the gym after a long, grueling back and shoulder session, and I was fucking tired, right? And after I came home, I hopped in the shower because I was sweaty as fuck. After that, I made the usual chicken pasta. Always gotta have high protein. And then, as I sat down and got comfortable, my sister looked over to me and said, "Mom had a fall." Initially, I had brushed this off as like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't really mean anything. And then something clicked in my brain, and I realized what she had said, and it fucking hit me. This one brutal truth is probably something people won't tell you, and you kind of have to learn for yourself. But it's that as you get older, your parents do as well. And when I heard that a few months ago, it fucking hit me, and I realized it's so fucking true. And I started to realize that your parents aren't going to be around forever. You're so used to having them in your normal lives that you don't realize that they're not going to be here forever. And I've literally seen in real time them go from being younger, and then as I grow up, they also grow up and get older. And they're starting to face the problems with their health as a result of getting older. And not just a few months ago, I was speaking to my little brother, and he came up to me and said, Dad came home from work and he was on the floor. And I asked him, "What do you mean he was on the floor?" And he said, he just said he was on the floor and didn't move. And that fucking shocked me to my core. And I was like, what? And then my mum had just explained that he just had a hard day at work and his body literally couldn't hold up anymore. It was so shattered from a physically demanding job. He's a builder. And his body couldn't handle it no more. And it hit me again after hearing that story, after hearing the first one from my mum, and then now my dad. Your parents are getting older. And this is probably a brutal truth you don't want to hear. It's going to happen regardless. And this is probably not something kind of young guys or whoever really think about, because we're so concerned with kind of our own lives. We tend to kind of not really pay attention to what's going on around us, but time really does not stop for anyone. Your parents who were very fit, maybe just more capable and mobile as they were younger, as they get older, that isn't so much the case anymore. Like my dad is a fucking hard worker. He works a fucking physically demanding job. I'm so grateful that he does, because of he's done his best to look after the family by working this job and providing and doing the job of a father. And it just fucking hit me, and I was like, they aren't going to be here forever. And it's probably not something you want to even think about, but it definitely hit me after hearing those two stories. Because that would have never happened 10, 15 years ago when I was a lot younger. Nothing like that would ever happen. But as they kind of get older into their 50s and 60s, this shit happens. And some of it is to do with, it's just life. You get older, you start to have some health problems. But I don't ever want to hear that or experience that, because you never want to hear that as a son or daughter of one of your parents. You never want to hear that shit. That shit's fucking horrible. No child wants to ever hear that kind of story about their parents, especially not me. And my kind of thought process behind this was that had they have been a bit more health conscious and made better efforts to look after their health while they were younger, maybe this wouldn't have happened as they got older. They kind of went about life going about it as normal and not really kind of taking the proper actions to like look after themselves for the long term. I think this is common with a lot of people. Well, I have brown parents and they don't really have any idea what the gym is, what working out is, what muscle building is. It's a completely foreign concept to them. So trying to explain that would probably go right over their heads. And what I want to try and say is, had they tried and made an effort to just be a bit more in tune with their health, things like these may not have happened as they got older, or they may have just been a bit less severe. For example, 10 years ago, my mum was a bit more active and more mobile than she is in present day. And now, I used to do more things with her. Like, this one time, I must have been 10 years old, just got back from school. My mum sat down and talked to me and said, let's go to the park. So I got changed from home from school, got out my uniform, put my other clothes on, put my shoes on, put my coat on, and then got out and literally just went to the park. I had spent a couple hours there, had fun, went on the swing set, went on the slide, and it was a great time. Things like that don't really happen anymore as a result of getting older and being less mobile. And I think she has a walking stick now. And that is like the first real sign that someone is getting older and they can't move as well as they used to. And I would say it's inevitable, but getting older is definitely inevitable. You can't stop that, but you can make an effort to look after your body and health. So as you get older, you can still keep doing the things you used to do as you were younger by doing things such as lifting weights and being more physically active. Now, if they had consciously educated themselves on the importance of looking after your health and doing things like lifting weights, these things could have been prevented from happening. And I don't mean in the conventional kind of bodybuilder sense, like, yeah, fucking pump loads of weights and put on a load of muscle. I don't mean that. I mean like just for like mobility and kind of functionality. I honestly believe every single person should lift weights, and not all for the same reason. Just so that your muscles are trained and get worked. Because if you don't use your muscles, they literally degenerate over time. And that's why you may see with some elderly people, they're often a lot less mobile and may often have accidents such as falling over because they have lost their balance and they lack muscles in certain areas of their body, which mean they struggle to hold themselves up, and that's why they need the likes of a scooter or a walking stick to get around, because your muscles aren't strong enough to hold you up and do basic things like walking. So as you get older, your muscles degenerate because you haven't used them properly in such a long amount of time, or you just haven't trained them properly. So that as you get older, your muscles literally kind of degenerate and get smaller, and they stop being capable of doing things you didn't even have to consider when you were younger. And had they maybe just once or twice a week lifted some weights, it doesn't have to be super heavy. They're not trying to be bodybuilders. It's different for gym guys like myself. We're obviously doing it for a different purpose, but the side benefit of lifting heavy weights is that you remain functional and can do normal things. You're mobile. All your joints work as they should. And then a kind of bonus is that you get fucking jacked. But for like kind of people who aren't really into the gym, I do think there's still a benefit. Even if you don't want to build a fucking six pack or whatever, get a jacked physique, that probably isn't in the mind of someone like your parents. they probably just want to go about life and not really have any health hindrances and just not have any problems stop them from doing whatever they want to do with their lives. And doing simple things, I wouldn't call them simple, but just making an effort to look after your health and do something about it whilst you have the time, and do something now before it could eventually get even worse. And I wouldn't even try and go too intense with it. Maybe go to the gym once or twice a week and just try and walk a bit more regularly, and that will do you a world of good and would probably prevent these kind of things from happening, because your muscles do need to be used in order for them to stop degenerating, and you have to kind of build them up. And that's why I always respect older people who go into the gym and work out, because a lot of older people kind of neglect their health and kind of just embrace it as old age. But there is something you can do to kind of help you have a better quality of life, and that is going to the gym and lifting weights, because you build those muscles up in your legs and your arms, and your body literally ages less quickly, and you're still able and capable of doing things you may have been able to do in your 30s and 40s. You can still do them in your 50s and 60s if you take like the necessary steps to look after your health and keep working those muscles and don't completely neglect them. Like a couple years ago, when I first went to the gym, me and my friend made a lot of friends with kind of older people in the gym, and when we had asked them their age, they looked nothing like their age, and it's fucking crazy. One time in 2022, me and my friend went to the gym and we were just doing a normal chest session. And as I was going to bench the bar, it was slightly angled at a tilt. And one of the guys came up to me and he said, "Hey man, you've got a muscle imbalance." And I didn't realize this at the time. And then over time, I went and fixed it. And then we kind of started to get to know this guy better. And I was somewhere, I think my friend asked him his age, and he said his age. I think he was in his 40s or maybe early 50s. I can't quite remember, but anyways, and then when he said his actual age, I was fucking shocked to my core, because he was in fucking great shape for his age. I actually don't remember what his age was, but he was in great shape for his age, and he was a lot older than he had looked, which goes to show that if you look after your body, you will physically look younger than your actual age, because I don't know what the process is, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but there's something that happens to your body as you work out and look after yourself. Your body kind of ages slower. That's the easiest way of putting it. You kind of age slower, and you don't look as old. That doesn't sound great. You don't look as old if you lift weights and you exercise somewhat regularly. That just isn't the case. And this is kind of my last point, which is, if you have the opportunity to go to the gym, just do it. Do it. There's literally nothing to lose from doing it. And if you want to live a long and healthy life, this is where you start. And this is how you prevent things like what's happened to my kind of parents potentially happen to you in the future. Because as long as you remain functional and mobile from lifting weights and exercising regularly, and this can just be walking, then you stop things like these ever from happening, really. And you won't have to resort to things like walking sticks to get around, and just do basic things like go to the shop or go see friends and family. You don't have to think twice about how you do something. You just go and do it. And that's all I have to say.